close your eyes and picture your future. Because that image you're holding, that vision, is more powerful than your current reality. That's not just a poetic idea, it's law. Every great shift in your life starts with one thing: a clear picture held with belief. And that, my friend, is the true power of your imagination. Florence Scovel Shinn taught it. Neville Goddard repeated it. And today, I'm here to show you exactly how to use it. Your imagination is not just for daydreaming. It's the blueprint of your destiny. Whatever you consistently imagine, good or bad, you attract. You don't get what you want. You don't even get what you say. You get what you imagine with feeling. Most people live reacting to life. But a few, those who understand the power of thought and image, create it. They don't wait for conditions to be perfect. They train the mind to see the end result before it appears. Let me ask you something. Have you been spending your imagination rehearsing fear, failure, or rejection? Because if so, you're already manifesting it. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Imagination is the scissors of the mind. It cuts out whatever picture you hold." So, what picture are you cutting out right now? If your mind keeps returning to worry, lack, or confusion, this is your wake-up call. Because the subconscious doesn't care if your image is good or bad. It just responds. In this video, I'll walk you through exactly how to realign your imagination, rewire your mind, and start seeing results. Fast. This isn't theory. It's a principle that's been tested by visionaries, artists, and spiritual masters for over a century. The moment you take control of the movie playing in your mind, your outer world begins to shift. Let's go deeper. You don't need a vision board. You don't need hours of affirmations. What you need, truly, is to understand that your imagination is always working. The question is, in whose favor? Florence Scovel Shinn knew that imagination wasn't some magical trick. It was a spiritual law of correspondence. Whatever picture you hold in the visible must reflect. It's not a maybe. It's not sometimes. It's automatic. Let me say it differently. You are always manifesting, even when you're not trying. Even when you think you're waiting for something to happen, your subconscious is working 24/7, pulling situations that match your mental images. So stop saying, "I don't know how to visualize," or "I don't see pictures in my mind." That's not true. When you're worrying about what might go wrong, that's visualization. When you replay that embarrassing moment from last week, that's visualization. You already know how to imagine. Now, learn to use it for good. Here's what Florence would say to you. Start seeing your life as you desire it to be, not as it is. And don't just imagine it casually like a passing thought. Feel it. Step into the role. Act as if your wish is already fulfilled. What would that version of you look like? Talk like? Wake up thinking? Hold that image with faith and let your subconscious do the work. Let's get something straight. You're not creating the outcome from scratch. The version of your life that you desire already exists in the invisible realm. Your imagination is the bridge to bring it here. If you want to change your job, your relationship, your body, your finances, you must first change your image. Not your social media image, not the one you perform for others, but the one in your silent moments, the one only you see before falling asleep. That's the real you. That's the blueprint. And if you don't like it, you can change it, starting today. Let's keep going. Let's talk about someone who actually lived this truth, Neville Goddard. He didn't just talk about imagination. He used it to change his life, over and over again. Neville was born in Barbados and moved to New York as a young man. He had no money, no family connections, no formal education. But what he did have was a deep belief in the power of the mind. He discovered Florence Scovel Shinn's work and aligned it with his own understanding of scripture and the subconscious. Here's what he did. Neville would go into a quiet state before sleep. He would visualize, not just see, but feel himself already living the life he desired. He said, "Live in the end, not in hope, not in trying, but in knowing." When he wanted to travel the world, but couldn't afford a ticket, he imagined holding the passport. He imagined stepping off the ship. Within weeks, opportunities appeared. He got the ticket. He took the trip. He didn't force the how. He aligned with the result. That's the core of what Florence teaches, too. You don't manifest by chasing. You manifest by becoming. You don't need to manipulate the external world. You need to discipline your inner world. Florence would tell you, whatever you ask for, if you feel it's already done, you will receive it. It's not magic. It's spiritual law. Neville knew this. He trained his imagination like an athlete. He didn't wait for things to be logical. He trusted the unseen more than the visible. So the question is, are you imagining your life as it is or as it could be? Because either way, your mind will deliver. Remember this. If Neville could do it with no money, no privilege, no perfect background, you can too. And you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be intentional. Imagination isn't pretending. It's pre-living. So, start living it now, before it shows up. What you consistently imagine, you invite. What you emotionally invest in, you amplify. Florence didn't just write about this. She lived it. But let's bring this to life with someone whose journey you probably already know. J.K. Rowling. Before the fame, before the books, she was a single mother, living on welfare, battling depression, and writing in cafes because she couldn't afford heating at home. But she had one thing that kept her going: a vision, a mental picture of the world she was creating. Hogwarts wasn't just a fantasy. It was a vivid, consistent image in her mind. She imagined it in such detail that it felt more real to her than her external circumstances. She didn't just write Harry Potter. She saw it. She believed in it before a single publisher did. 12 publishers said no. But her inner reality didn't change. She kept going. She kept imagining the world reading her stories, and eventually the world did. This is what Florence meant by the imagination creating reality. It's not daydreaming. It's discipline. It's giving more weight to what you believe inside than what you see outside. Every time you close your eyes and feel the life you want, you're rehearsing for it. You're preparing your energy. You're sending a signal. And the world, somehow, eventually, responds. Not because you forced it, but because you became aligned with it. What are you aligning with today? Are you mentally rehearsing doubt, disappointment, and fear? Or are you imagining something so deeply that it starts to feel familiar? You are not just a thinker. You are a creator. And your imagination is not decoration. It's the blueprint. As Florence said, there is an invisible power in your words and thoughts. They build the world you live in. Your current reality is not the final word. It's just the latest result of everything you've imagined, accepted, and allowed up until now. Florence Scovel Shinn didn't just teach manifestation, she taught mental precision. She understood that most people are creating by default. They wake up and react. They think the same thoughts, feel the same fears, repeat the same stories, and then wonder why nothing changes. But here's the truth. The world around you mirrors your internal state. That's not philosophy. That's power. When you begin to consciously hold an image, not just once, but every day, with intention, with emotion, with unwavering clarity, you begin to turn the tide. Most people wait for proof to believe. But Florence taught the opposite. You believe first. You imagine first. You act as if it's already true, and then the evidence shows up. Imagine this clearly. You wake up and choose to see yourself as confident, powerful, loved, aligned. You carry that image throughout your day. You protect it. You water it. You refuse to let fear choke it. And slowly, your actions begin to shift. You walk differently, speak differently, decide differently, and the world has no choice but to respond. This is not just positive thinking. This is inner engineering. This is the art of becoming before the outcome. Florence called this spiritual law. What you imagine with feeling becomes form. She said, man can only receive what he sees himself receiving. That's not metaphorical. That's exact. So ask yourself now, what are you rehearsing in your mind today? What scenes are you repeating? What emotions are you feeding? Are they aligned with the life you say you want? Because you don't manifest what you wish. You manifest what you expect. And what you expect is shaped by what you imagine. So guard it. Shape it. Return to it daily. And never underestimate this truth. Your imagination is your creative power. Train it like your life depends on it. Because it does. There's something you need to understand deeply. Imagination isn't just a gift. It's a responsibility. Most people don't misuse their imagination because they're bad or lazy. They simply don't know how powerful it is. They imagine worst-case scenarios all day long. They rehearse rejections, failures, disappointments. They play them like a movie on repeat, and then are surprised when life reflects exactly that energy. Florence Scovel Shinn called this the misuse of spiritual law. She believed that every thought you give emotion to is planting a seed. The problem is, many are planting weeds and wondering why their garden is out of control. Your imagination is not a place to indulge your fears. It is a sacred space, a place to rehearse your victory, not your defeat. Every time you imagine a version of yourself that is aligned, calm, powerful, you're creating a map. And the more often you revisit that inner image, the more familiar it becomes. Until one day, it doesn't feel like a fantasy anymore. It feels like you. Let me ask you this. How many hours have you spent imagining things you don't want to happen? What if you redirected just half of that energy toward imagining the best case scenario, the success, the peace, the breakthrough? This is not about delusion. This is about training your subconscious to stop expecting the worst and to start preparing for the best. That shift changes your posture. It changes your energy. It changes your timing. And eventually, it changes your life. Florence said, change your thoughts, and in the twinkling of an eye, all your conditions change. And that change doesn't start in the external world. It starts right here, in the quiet, invisible, powerful world of your imagination. You've been using it your whole life. Now it's time to use it on purpose. And once you do, there is no limit to what you can create. When you begin using your imagination intentionally, people around you might not understand. They'll tell you to be realistic. They'll say, don't get your hopes up. They'll try to bring you back down to earth. But the truth is, you were never meant to stay there. You were designed to rise. And imagination is the ladder. The world has been changed by people who dare to imagine something no one else could see. Every invention, every work of art, every act of progress started in someone's mind, long before it became visible. So why do we act like using our imagination is childish? It is not childish. It is divine. You don't need to be logical all the time. You need to be aligned. When you close your eyes and imagine the life you want, not as a distant dream, but as your daily reality, something begins to shift inside you. And that internal shift is more powerful than any external strategy, because the subconscious doesn't know the difference between a real memory and an imagined one. It just accepts what you give it repeatedly. So the question is, what are you feeding your subconscious today? Are you filling it with worry, doubt, regret? Or are you filling it with vision, clarity, and peace? There's a story of a man who imagined himself living in the exact home he wanted, walking through it in his mind every night for 6 months, down to the creaking of the floorboards, the sunlight through the window, the way the front door felt in his hand. And 1 year later, almost to the day, he found himself walking into that house. No coincidence. That was the power of repetition plus belief. Imagination creates reality, but not just any imagination. It has to be felt. It has to be seen over and over again. It has to become more familiar than your current life. And when that happens, something amazing unfolds. Your subconscious starts to build a bridge, and your reality starts to catch up. You don't have to wait for the perfect timing. You don't have to wait for someone to approve of your dreams. You don't even have to be fully confident. You just have to begin. Right now, wherever you are, your imagination is either working for you or against you. It's either building the future you desire or reinforcing the one you're trying to escape. This is not about thinking positive and ignoring reality. This is about acknowledging the power of what you practice in your mind. Because repetition creates belief, and belief shapes behavior, and behavior builds reality. It always starts small. You imagine yourself showing up differently, stronger, calmer, more certain. You imagine the email getting sent, the message getting answered, the room welcoming you instead of rejecting you. You imagine peace where there used to be panic. You imagine abundance where there used to be fear. And you don't just visit that vision once. You live in it. And eventually, that internal image becomes more than a hope. It becomes a knowing. This is how reality begins to shift. You might not see results on day one, but your body will start to feel different. Your energy will change. Your tone will soften or sharpen in all the right ways. And over time, the world has no choice but to respond to who you've become. Not because something magical happened to you, but because you finally remember the truth. You are the creator. And the tool is already in your hands. Use it. Now. If this message spoke to something inside you, there's a reason. Don't let it fade away. Let this be the moment you decide to live with intention. You can subscribe now to keep this mindset close. Not for motivation, but for mastery. Because this is not about feeling good for 5 minutes. This is about becoming someone you recognize, someone you trust. And that journey starts with a thought.